Hello and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan, and welcome to our new podcast, Go Tell the World. Today we have on our show two co-hosts, and there is Bill Snyder and Desantis. No relation to the candidate, but it's so great to see you and Bill. How y'all doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing great.
So what do y'all think? We came up with this, and Bill came up with the topic because whoever's the co-host with me, they say the topic, and it's so pertinent for today because guess what? It's almost time to go back to school. Some people rejoicing, some people with a tear in their eye, and some people saying like, this will be a great year. So we're going to talk about parents and the ways they can prepare their kids for school, and also about some of the pitfalls you want to avoid during this school year. 2023 to 2024, here we come. Bill and Ann?
Yeah, no, definitely. There's, we, for those of you who don't know, our ministries collaborated on writing a book called Hearts Burning Within Us. And there it is. There's a copy of the book. And we wrote it for college kids. And we actually wrote it with college kids, I should say. We wrote it with them, not just for them. And so we spent a lot of time over the course of about a year, over the pandemic, really talking with them about the questions that were on their heart, that they had about the Catholic faith, and journeying with them like Jesus did on the road to Emmaus. That's some of the pieces of the scriptures, the title of our book, right? Hearts Burning Within Us is what one of the disciples says when Jesus reveals himself after the walk on the road to Emmaus. So that's what we did, and we thought it'd be a really good idea because school is right around the corner, as as you all know, right? So it's a great thing to talk about that mentorship that parents can provide for the young people in their lives, right? For their children. But it's not just them, it's teachers too. It's youth ministers. It's all of those people that are in leadership of young people, right? Those who are, responsible for forming young people. This episode's for you, I think. So it's not just, I don't want to say just for parents. Yeah. There's going to be some good, wisdom, I'm sure, for parents. But right now I have a 2-year-old, so so back to school. He's not going back to school this year. He's not going to school for the first time. But it's about that understanding, right? Of how parents and teachers can really mentor kids in the faith, and help them grow, because they need it, especially as they are going to set foot back in the doors of schools.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, Bill. Thank you so much. And Ellen, thank you for having us for this wonderful podcast. Of course, this is our second time, maybe even our third time on the show. So it's wonderful to be back again with you and with everyone during this time. And Bill's right. We did write a book it was in 2020 that it happened. But he's right. It was during the pandemic. And it was a kind of a year process. The Lord really worked because he was able to provide us with actual college students that we were able to collaborate with, ask questions to on their questions of faith. College students, by that I mean ones that are entering into college or even late high school. So it's kind of a perfect book for someone that might be watching that maybe your high school senior just graduated. So that would be a great book that you might want to consider. I do think this is a fantastic topic because back to school affects all of us, doesn't it, Ellen? I mean, I do believe that whether you're that young mom that has little kids that aren't even in school yet, or if you're the mom that has several kids in school, or even people like me who basically, my husband and I are empty nesters, as I believe you are too, Ellen. And, our kids are finished college, but back to school still affects us because I think that whole rhythm of the summer and the slowdown, and then things get busy. Even at church, they get busy, right? So I don't think it really matters what age group you're in. The back to school does affect all of us. That's my thought.
Very good.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. I like that term. Absolutely. I think the hardest thing right now this year, Bill and I know you watch TV and kind of watch some news. The thing is, it's hard to trust to give your child who you love, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, to someone to care for them. If they're be 5 or if they be leaving for high school or college, because the thing is nowadays we have to really be able to trust God, right? With the fact that we're going to trust our children to another person. I was with the nuns. I went to Catholic school till I think it was 4th or 8th grade. Before that, I have a blur of we moved so many times. I went to Catholic school. In those days, you could really trust enough that I would walk 2 miles in the snow to mass because I trusted I'd be safe as a little girl. And we lived in New York, East Rochester, New York. So I was trusting. And when I let my kids go to school, they were in a Christian community for very many years. We left when my third one from the end was in high school, and we trusted the people. We knew them all. We still, keep good relationships with them all. But what do you all think about the trust issue? Because when you got a little guy, and one day you have to hand him over to the teacher that you don't know what her beliefs are, what they do behind the closed school doors.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, right now my son's 2 and he's taking a nap fortunately right now as we record this, but it's amazing, right? As a work from home dad, I do all of the day-to-day care, the 9 to 5 care during the week, I should say, while my wife is working out of the office downtown Milwaukee. And so with that, there is a lot of trust that you have when you a lot of trust issues you have, right? Like, I mean, we don't entrust our son to a lot of different people. Mom or dad has pretty much always been around. And at that little, at 2 years old, I think that's appropriate. I think that's very appropriate. I think, come next year though, when he begins to go to 3K or into those preschool programs, it's going to be scary. It's definitely going to be scary for myself and for my wife. And, certainly we do a lot of research. I think that's the big thing, is do a lot of research, go and test the different waters. That's what I would tell, young parents like myself. I would say, test the different waters, go do different things. Just before the podcast, I was over at the nature center here in Milwaukee, and we were just walking around and enjoying life. But there were other kids, there were other parents, there were other people that he encountered. He was walking up to people and saying hello and hi and different things like that. And so you have to stretch yourself, but you also have to allow your child to stretch himself. And Ellen, as you pointed out, whether they're 5 or 15, I don't think that gets any easier. But I would tell any parent to really, pray about it, but also, push yourself and push your child into those situations that are going to help them expand and grow in, academically, but also spiritually, so that would be a great, great tip that I would give the parents.
How is it for you, Anne? Because you have 2 girls, now adults, but at one point they were, they were little, and you had to go, here, take good care of my baby.
Yes, I remember that so well. And my daughters are now 26 and 24. My older daughter is married now. In fact, right now, please say a prayer. Those who are watching, my daughter's at World Youth Day with her husband in Portugal. So it's a beautiful thing with our Archdiocese of Philadelphia. So just ask for the audience, please, no matter when you're watching this, because obviously it doesn't matter when you pray, but just lift a prayer for all the pilgrims there and the young people over at World Youth Day with Pope Francis in Portugal. And they're going to Fatima, which is so beautiful. So yeah, I remember so well when they were younger, because I was a homeschool mom, and I homeschooled them from the very beginning. So they were very used to being with me. So there were times though that they took different classes with homeschool co-ops, which some of the audience who are homeschooling, that even people who homeschool, sometimes they have occasions where other people are teaching your kids, for however that works. For us, it was a weekly homeschool co-op. And, of course, I had a little bit more control when you're homeschooling in terms of what's going on, right? But there's still that anxiety that you might have about not knowing exactly what's happening with your kids. So I agree with what Bill said, what you said. But I do think that this is an occasion for all of us to grow in faith, because when we're coming upon that school year, when September is going to be here soon, I mean, right now we're taping this very late July, early August. So it's kind of like we're preparing just for new schedules, right? And when you prepare for new schedules, you prepare also for making time for God no matter what. And that includes always the sacraments, doesn't it? It always includes that weekly mass. Maybe for some people who can make it, it might even be daily mass for some of us, the people who like to go to daily mass. But I definitely think it's reason to also include prayer time as a family. So that would be kind of my tip as well, is that as we're going into this new time, new season, is don't forget to take your faith with you, and don't forget to do all the things that you always like to do as a family to celebrate your faith. So thank you so much.
Our faith counts, and that's what the kids have to fall back on. I told before on this show, I'm sure, is that I have I have 8 children. So one is kind of more of a bold girl, and one is big, but they're both purple. I'm just saying, when we had the experiences with the shootings in the school, one girl said, you get the desk and you push them forward and you all go jam the guy. And I'm unaware. And the other girl goes, find a little closet and hide and pray. You see what I'm saying? Different people, but for real, why do we even have to prepare our children in that way? I sat in my soul. I know maybe this is off subject a little bit when you said that. The prayer has to be so in their soul. Their faith has to be rooted deep from the home, from, like Bill said, little baby, always been with them. Maybe praying in the car, maybe praying at meals and talking about Jesus for the day. Look at God created this whole nature. And then they have to be so dependent on their faith. As a little girl, I always had Jesus. I did. And I was able to call upon him every day, because that's the way I was formed in my own school, Catholic school in those days. And so it is so important, your point, Ann, just their faith has to come alive in their own soul, so that when they're not with you, they can go, Jesus is with me right now, and I'm not afraid. And one kid afraid about thunderstorms. He's an amazing man. He's 49 now, and he travels the world. He's like fearless. But at the time he was little, if there'd be a thunderstorm, he'd say, Mom, I just had to pray. He would just be so scared, But these are things you can call upon. The little rote prayers, Bill, one mom I knew had rote prayers so the kids can all memorize them every week. Karen Swenson, and she had 8 kids, and every week they'd be learning a new prayer beyond the bulletin board. She wasn't a homeschool mom. She did in her home, and it was fabulous. We all have our little things, we get in the car and say, Angel of God. That's what we do. And so when I had my 7 car crashes, my one daughter, the bold one with pushing the desk, she said, did you say the angel of God, Mom? I said, yes, I did. And I can walk. I could have been paralyzed. You know what I'm saying? So you guys take it away. What are the things you want to hit on? Because I did want to say that. And I want to address college kids too, because I have a thing I say to all my kids as they leave for college or leave for high school even, so that they know Mom's going to say this. But go on.
Yeah, no, Ellen, I think, some of your sharing is really on point. And, when you're looking at how best to mentor older kids, especially that going off to school, I'm the oldest of my 3 siblings. So I'm the oldest of my 3 siblings, and I was the first one to go off to college. Obviously my other 2 siblings followed me, but I was, the first one in my family to go off to college out of my siblings. And my mom and dad went to college, but that moment when you have that time to go away. I remember my dad particularly being very emotional over the fact that I was going out to school. He was just very emotional. And so like the morning I went off to college, he took me and my brother out to the King Street Grill in Malvern, Pennsylvania. We went out to the King Street Grill and we had breakfast, and just he was, like upset that, I wasn't going to be around as much. And then, he dropped me off at school. And when he dropped me off, he made sure that he handed me the crucifix, his crucifix that he had for many, many years. It was his dad's. And then he passed it on to me, and he said, just put this above your bed. And, so there was this like, handing on moment, like, hey, here's a piece of my faith that I'm giving you. And I know that you're not always going to be around as much as you were when you were a kid, but I am going to give you, something that means a lot to me, that I've relied on, right? The cross, and this is the cross that his father had. So that cross today hangs in my bedroom. That cross today is in my bedroom, and it's something that I'm sure that I'll hand on to one of my children as well. As life goes forward. And so, this it can be something very simple like that, because when you're in college, it's meant to, go grow your wings and go fly and go and go off. Like, that's part of it, right? But knowing that your parents still care, still love you, and still want the best for you is really important. So, I encourage parents do something like my dad did. I mean, it stuck with me, and I will certainly, uh, treasure that my whole life, and I will pass it and pay it forward to my kid. So, just remember those little things. They mean a ton, to young people, to college kids. It's really, really important that you pass on a piece of your faith and say, hey, go live it.
That's right. That's right. So Anne, what do you think? Did you do something special for
Thank
girls?
you.
Okay, did you
Yes,
something?
I appreciate it. And I want to thank Bill for his reflection. That's beautiful, Bill. I've never heard you talk about that before, so thank you.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thinking to myself when my daughters went off to college, because they were homeschooled all the way through. So they were homeschooled from preschool all the way to grade 12. So it was a long time, right? But it was the most wonderful time, honestly. We grew so much to love each other even more. We grew in our faith. And then when it was time to go off to college, my one daughter decided to go away, but the college that she chose was very close by. It was only like about 45 minutes away. So we were able to see each other probably a little bit more than maybe people whose children go out of state or something like that, or a couple hours away. My other daughter did one semester away from home, but then she decided to come back and commute and live at home during college. So there was a little bit more closeness there because she was living here during those 4 years of college. But I think the one thing that I tried to instill in my daughters when they were going away, because when we look at social media, like whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, I don't know about all of you, but I see a lot of pictures of people that I know, younger people who share like their first experience at college. And a lot of times what you see are those pictures of people at parties and having all this kinds of fun. And now I did address that with my daughters, because a lot of times when you see those pictures and those images, they're people that are partying hardy, right? They're really underage drinking and maybe doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, that kind of thing. So I definitely did address that with my daughters before they went off to college, to say to them that really the reason that you're going to college, right? The main and primary reason is to learn about whatever it is that you want to do once you graduate from college, right? Whatever your profession is going to be. Also, it's an opportunity to meet people, but it should also be an opportunity to grow in your faith. It shouldn't be just an opportunity for you to do whatever you want and drink until you get sick and do drugs and all these other kinds of things that are really not good and not healthy. So I did make it very clear to my daughters that I was hoping that they would decide not to get involved with all those things that aren't so good, because people do them and it looks like fun on social media, but there's a whole other side of that we never see, right? We never see the day after the party. We never see the breakup with the boyfriend. We never see how they were friends with this one group and then now they're not friends with this group of people anymore, So I do think that needs to be addressed as far as the reason you're at college, right? It's not just to I put it in air quotes, to have a great time and to drink until you, like I said, just drink until you can't drink anymore. Do whatever you want. It's a for you to grow and to learn, but you got to hold on to your faith. And that's why I'm so glad that Bill and I wrote the book, Hearts Burning Within Us, which you can get on Amazon. And it's also available through Karis Publishing and at Patchwork Heart Ministry on Bill's website, patchworkheart.org. And it's on my website too, at
Yeah.
andesantis.com under Anne's books.
Yes, I think we'll talk.
So I just think it's a great opportunity to talk about those things. Thank you.
And I think we should talk about some of the things you asked the questions to the college kids, because moms that are listening, if you have older kids, you may not have really thought about some of these things to ask them. And I'd be glad to get into that. But I want to say what I say to my kids. I thought maybe you had done Anna a promise ring. Some moms and dads give a little ring and say, you promise to be pure until marriage. We did not do that. Was the next generation after us, May? We didn't do that with our kids. I would give them these words: be pure, be legal, and be righteous. I said, bye, have a good time, be pure, be legal, and be righteous. I always say the same thing. And I feel like that would stick because that covers everything. And by the way, that didn't exempt us from trials of life. You know, we're not going to be lie, and like life, people make personal choices. And you know what? In this world, there's tribulation, and God sees us out of them all if we listen and obey what he says to do. And we've had a share of trials in life. I'm sure everyone has. And someone said this on air at the TV one time with me, Kelly Dolan. She said, little people, little problems, big people, big problems. But now all of our children in their 30s, 40s, and almost 50s. So we have been past that season where they want to test the waters, maybe see if I push the envelope, will I really have something happen to me? And some lessons are learned the easy way and some the hard way. So we thank the Lord for we made it through. That we have a lot of adult children. In fact, yesterday we were at the family dinner addressing bullying, and I for one am very naive. I was very appalled at things that had happened to the children at a Christian school. So I mean, saying my parents are maybe like me. They may be a little blinded by the fact that they're not knowing that these things go on. So I was blinded that I did not do well in college because of that. I didn't know things went on. I was that naive. So Bill, what do you think? What things did y'all do? What did you ask the kids? And what were the most important questions, and how did they respond?
Yeah. So in this book, again, Hearts Burning Within Us, and the subtitle is Answers to Burning Questions from Catholic College Students. It really was their questions that were on their heart.
That's good.
And yeah, in so many different ways, we try to pass on our faith to our kids, right? In so many different ways, we try and do that. As you mentioned, when they're 2, we can take them outside and show them nature and the birds and the bugs and all of that stuff. But as we progress through life, we try to instill morality. We try to do all of these different things, but ultimately, and especially in college, I think today's college student really has to have the deepest questions on their heart answered. And so that was the only question I think Anne and I asked the kids are what are the deepest questions about faith and the Catholic Church that are on your heart? And they came back with an amazing list of 42 questions that we answered in the book. I mean, just to give you a couple of ideas of what they're thinking about are things like the church and marijuana usage, the morality of unnecessary purchases, living together before marriage, underage drinking, Catholics, LGBTQ and same-sex marriage, marriage for procreation versus infertility, the Catholic stand on the death penalty, are outdoor masses or weddings permitted? Why do we share the same cup of wine of the Eucharistic precious blood at Mass? What about purgatory? There are all kinds of questions in this book, and most of them I would have never thought to ask. These are questions that are on today's college student's heart. I remember there was a gentleman who was reviewing our book, and he gave us a nice review. But he said, there aren't as many hard-hitting questions in this. Why aren't there as many hard-hitting questions about, the sex and all of these different things that are going on in today's world? I said, well, honestly, these are the questions that the kids asked. And that's the perspective of this book. It's not from the perspective of a youth minister or a parent trying to instill values in the kid. This is the kids coming to us with the questions on their heart. And isn't that what Jesus did on the road to Emmaus? That's where we got our inspiration for this book, right? Jesus, these two guys are walking along and they're disillusioned and they're upset at all the events that have just happened. They're like, our best friend just got crucified to a tree and we're walking home defeated, right? I think the average young person today in college feels like that. I think they feel defeated. So much is thrown at them, and then the faith is rammed down their throat in some respects, right? And so really, what kind of meaning does this have for me? And Jesus on the road to Emmaus shows up and he goes, there's no reason to be discouraged. There's no reason to be upset. And he starts explaining and answering their questions, beginning with like Moses, right? He goes all the way back to Moses and he starts explaining to them along the road to Emmaus why, he is the true way, the truth, and the life. So that's what we have to do. We have to get back to that. We have to explain why Jesus is the way, the truth, and life by doing one thing, answering the questions that are presented to us, not proposing new questions to people. No, answering the questions that are proposed to us. And that's what we do in the book. It's a little different, than just, a catechism where, it's teaching the faith that's got some humor in it, that's got some funny stuff in it. We are true to the church. We are true to the church and the church's teachings in every respect. But this is coming to us, not us going to them.
That's great. That's great. So if you're a college mother that's gonna say goodbye to your firstborn, your baby boy or baby girl, get that book before you send them off, because you could give it as a gift after you've read it, so what you could talk about it. Lines of communication, and it was big with Pat and I, Deacon Pat and I, and Bill, I'm sure with your wife and your husband and you, to make sure the lines of communication are open to share. But I don't know, some people cannot talk to their parents about these issues. In my case, my mom and dad were churchgoers. They weren't that religious. So some question you'd have, they wouldn't have the answer. So what do y'all suggest, Ann? What do you think about preparing them to have someone to talk to, and hopefully it's the mom and dad or mentor?
Oh, I believe in that 100%. In fact, when my daughters both went off to college, they got involved in the young adult group at college, and that was wonderful. In fact, I must say, one of the authors on the book that Bill and I wrote, there were two additional authors, Maggie Riggins and Jen Oakley. And those two people one of them was one that I knew, because Maggie Riggins was my daughter's youth, I would call her youth director when she was at college at DeSales University. And then Jen Southerton at the time, now Jen Oakley, was also a graduating student, and she got involved in ministry too. So it all kind of came together. But it was wonderful that my daughters got involved. Like, I know there's something called Focus, which some of you who are watching this video, you're familiar with Focus, or you're familiar with something like Net Ministries, which
That's good. That's good.
Team that visits different places around the United States to evangelize young people. But getting involved in those type of young adult groups or youth groups are wonderful. And that's one thing that my daughters did both in high school and in college. I do think it helped them to have even somebody other than me to talk about faith issues or questions of faith.
I think it's important. I think it's a very good point, y'all. And so we only have, like, I'd say 10 minutes. I haven't been keeping clock watching, but I'm just looking at my clock. I know we started a little late. It's almost 3 in Eastern Standard Time. Bill's in Central. Ann's in Eastern Standard. But what do y'all think we should say, like our last kind of words, or sum it up, or more questions? It's your choice.
Yes, Ellen, thank you.
I mean, just for me, Ellen, I would just say, for everybody watching, and especially young adults. I mean, let's say you're a college student that's watching this, or you're a parent of a college student that's watching this. There was a book out not long ago by Sherry Waddell, which was Forming Intentional Disciples. And I remember reading that with one of our pastoral groups, and I was working in a parish. And one of the amazing things about that book, and I'm going to take this with me for my son and my children in the future, is this: when they go off to high school or college, give them 3 picture frames.
Yeah.
Give them 3 picture frames. And ask them to fill those picture frames by the end of their tenure, whether it's college or high school. It doesn't really matter, but ask them by the end of their tenure to fill those picture frames with adults that they trust, that are mentors. And, if you're a college student, think about those people in your life that are not your parents. They cannot be your parents. That's the only rule. They cannot be mom or dad. Who are the other adults? Who are the other mentors in your life that are going to be faithful and help you to grow as a person, professionally, and also spiritually? And then put those people in those picture frames. On graduation day, go thank those people and give them that picture frame and say, I really trust you. I really trust you. I really thank you. Do that. It will mean so much. It will mean so much to those mentors. And it will also show you inside that they can be that Christ is real through those people. That Christ has revealed himself through those people in your life. So that'd be my advice to parents. Give them some picture frames. Go to the Dollar Tree and get some cheap picture frames and say, fill them up. Fill them up between now and when you graduate. I think that's just some really solid advice for for college kids. If your parents didn't do that, you're watching this, do it yourself. All right. I'm challenging you to do it.
That's very good. Yeah. See, we didn't know where the show was going to go. You let the Holy Spirit lead. I always enjoy Ann and Bill on the show, and I thank you for the good ideas. Angie, what do you want to say?
Thank you so much. I would just say, I love what Bill said, first of all. I would take that even a step further and say that we can also grow when we become. One of the greatest gifts that I've been given is that I'm mentoring people myself, and these are young adults. And it is wonderful because in addition to the relationship that I have with my own kids, it's just great to have some people that are younger than me that I'm able to mostly guide along in faith. It's not spiritual direction, but it's definitely just like listening to what's going on in their life and being able to give them that sort of, not only the professional opinion, right? Some of them want kind of career type of advice, but also the pastoral, the spiritual. So I think that's just taking it a step further. And the other thing I would just say on the topic of back to school, not only we were talking a lot about college age and high school age, but for you, anyone who's watching this, that you have younger kids too, is just remember that advice to make the time during the school year to go to mass every single week, family, and to pray as a family. And also just to remember to teach your kids to the faith enough that they love it and that they want to continue. And that was the greatest thing for me to see, that when I got to be, in my mid 40s or late 40s, and my children were graduating from high school and things like that, that I'm able to see that my daughters took what they learned and they decided on their own that they wanted to celebrate the Catholic faith. So that would be my best advice. Thank you so much, Ellen and Bill.
Oh, thank you. Great wisdom for you from Bill Snyder and Ann Desantis. Great wisdom. I'm wearing my cape today, and all they're thinking their final points. And I wore because, there's no superwoman, there's no super mom, there's no super dad, there's no super anybody. We don't make mistakes, and you can never rewind life. So it's never too late to just face yourself in the mirror, and then every day say, did I make some mistakes? My children today, maybe they're 5. Maybe they're 15, maybe they're 25, and go back to them and say, mom didn't do this right. Or if they come to you, not be like, oh, I didn't do that, but admit your faults and come back and say, I apologize. When you become a mom, you'll make some mistakes too. And that is very important to let them hear you say, I'm really sorry, because I had my wand, my confidence, there's no magic wand. You have to live the life for Christ, and you'll make mistakes too. Some of you college kids in high school, you may think you know more than the moms or the dads. You may think, well, I know everything, but no one does. So that is when you begin to learn humility and say, you know, I've made some mistakes. I'm going to admit them. I'm going to go forth, and tomorrow I'm going to wipe the slate, and I'm going to try a little harder. So Bill and Ann, I love having you on the show. Do you want to give your final point to tell them that this is what I want you to take home? Your little souvenir for the show is, and let Betty tell them where to buy the book and how to get a hold of y'all to speak at their church.
Very simply, fill up those picture frames. That's my word of wisdom to you. And the book here, Hearts Burning Within Us, Answers to Burning Questions from Catholic College Students. Go online at patchworkheart.org, Amazon, or Caris Press Publishing, and get your copy today. It's a great back to school gift for your teen or your loved one. So thank you.
Thank you. Ann?
Yes, thank you again, Ellen and Bill. It's always such a pleasure. I love this podcast. I can't wait for the next one. My bit of advice would be just please never give up praying for your kids and praying for all of your family, because that's really when things happen. They see the good in us, and they want to imitate the goodness that they see in us too. So remember that not only are we teaching our kids, but we're also living our faith, because that's really the way that lives are changed, is when they see that you live it too. Bill gave the contact information for patchworkheart.org, which is patchworkheart.org. And then there's contact form, of course, there, right, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
And for my website is andesantis.com. You can also reach out to me too. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ann and Bill. So I started this podcast, Go Tell the World, so I could have different co-hosts from different ministries and to support their ministry. They're on the show because they're wise and wonderful people that know the Lord personally, and they're sharing what they know. And I just hope you enjoyed this show today. I enjoyed hearing always the wise tips from you, Ann and Bill. And well, we had a little technical difficulty, as you'll see, but you know what? By your words, you're justified. Your words, you're condemned. And the words that came out of the co-host's mouths, that could be life-changing if you listen and put them into practice. So we had a lot of good wisdom and a lot of fun. And I just encourage y'all to get the book one more time and do your hearts burn within you. How long has it been since you got exceedingly joy of the Holy Ghost? You go like, I'm bubbling over with joy. I'm so excited. I just want to thank the Lord. You know, our life is supposed to be a thank you note to him. He died for us, and in return, we live for him. So I want to thank you for watching. Tell a friend, pass it on. Come again, y'all. And we love having you. May God bless your day. And as I'm going to hang up, go tell the world. See you, Bill. See you, Ann. And I'm sorry about the technical difficulty, Ann, but you know what? You came across so beautiful and so well spoken, even with the little fades. Still enjoyed it always. And may God bless your day. Have a good one. I have to always find this without my glasses. Here we go. And God bless y'all.